Does reading literature, and in particular fiction, make you more morally superior? Does it elevate your empathy? Martha Nussbaum would argue that reading literature, especially fiction, offers you a special kind of moral education. And through this moral education, we can become more compassionate. So think when you read a newspaper article about a war-torn country miles and miles away from you, maybe even in an entirely different continent, you may feel feelings of sadness, you may feel anger. However, this is usually described as a very fleeting feeling. You still go on about your day. This isn't something that completely takes over your world. And whilst we might be passionate politically, some of us, and whilst we might be politically engaged, this emotion doesn't necessarily feed itself into a permanence in our lives. What Martha Nussbaum argues, and she's one of my favourite philosophers, is that through literature and through these multiple perspectives that we can gain, we can travel the globe through the literature that we read, we are able to gain a moral education that provides us an additional skill so that we can be empathetic, so that we can gain that kind of, I don't want to label it a higher level empathy, but it's an empathy that transcends a fleeting feeling. Obviously, the hope is through this higher level empathy, we are able to resolve conflicts. We are able to even come up with a moral compass of sorts that acts as like a constitutional principle for all nations. And I know that that is like miles and miles away from someone reading a book in their room, but Nussbaum argues that that is a critical first step in gaining compassion. And she argues this in The Fragility of Goodness. And she argues that compassion is actually central to achieving our political aims. When I say our political aims, I mean the political aims that will maximize human life and will maximize freedom and justice and the principles of a supposed democracy. She argues that to achieve things like feminism, gender equality, to eradicate poverty and hunger in the world, we must do this through this higher level compassion that is able to be gained through a moral education, which we attain through reading books.